Let me tell you something. This is as exciting a conversation as anybody can have in the climate resilience space, given the nature of the emerging climate risks moving forward. And I'll tell you why. I mean, and again, this kind of throws us back to all the climate disasters that have taken place lately, especially the more destructive ones. And a string of reports and articles that have come out after just about all of them. I remember, the first one I read was coming out of Sandy in 2012, and kind of chronicling how communities react to disasters by coming together in a very passionate way and helping each other. Now, between disasters is what we have to work on, right? In terms of people like pulling the resources and working together to prepare for the next one and to kind of overall make the entire community more resilient. Internationally, you have the Sendai framework, the UN Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction that calls for the creation of a culture of climate resilience. And this concept of creating a culture of resilience is complex, it's multidimensional. It really requires a lot of things, including private sector action, corporate action, NGO action, and importantly, and brings us to this conversation, action by citizens themselves, or people-to-people networks that citizens can set up on their own, or perhaps prodded by a local government or by a corporation or an NGO, but that ultimately you have a setup where people can talk to each other and kind of prepare and get to know one another, especially at the neighborhood level. If you have a neighborhood and most people don't really know their neighbors or don't really know who lives in their buildings or down the street, and when a disaster strikes, that's exactly what you need the most, just to know one another, to have exchanged information, to have participated in some meetings and whatnot in preparation. So that brings us to you, and I was browsing 100 Resilient Cities not long ago and ran into your name as one of the partners, one of the enterprises listed as a 100 Resilient Cities partner organization. So that sets the table for you to explain what you do, what Knowledge Hub is, some of the information that you offer on your website, and if you can just share that with us, and then we'll just dig into the particulars.
Yeah, great. That'd be great. So Knowledge Hub is an online collaboration platform. It was developed by local government NGO in the UK, initially to bring local councils together, share information, break down the traditional geographical or departmental boundaries, create peer networks, so communities of practice and project groups, and just work smarter using technology. Roll on a few years, Knowledge Hub is now used by about 160,000 public service, non-profit, professionals across about 5,000 organisations.
No, say that number again. Those numbers are really impressive. That's
about 160,000 users, so public sector professionals across 5,000 organisations, representing 80 countries, 80. Now, predominantly the member base is still predominantly UK, so 95% of the user base is from the UK, 5% spread across 80 different countries. And that's where we see real growth potential as organisations around the globe, wherever they are, seek to share knowledge, to tap into others' knowledge, not reinvent the wheel, avoid duplication, and actually come together on global issues. And there's nothing, better than resilience and talking about how we protect the world in which we live. So my small team, were part of building the platform initially when they were in government, and have remained, with the platform after we've moved into the private sector. And as I say, we continue to support many organisations across non-profit and public sector. More recently, we've seen communities come together around Syrian resettlement, for example, flooding, water management. The UK in recent years, it now seems to be a continuing theme that we're going to get floods in parts of the country, whereas previously you might go decades without any major flooding, and that's all signalling the world's changing and you have to adapt and evolve. So one of those groups is called FlowNet. They're water managers, flood risk people that work up and down the UK. And that was sort of on a micro level. We're actually thinking, we could be doing a lot more of this globally. We came across resilient cities through a conversation I was having with the Chief Resilience Officer, Sarah Toy at Bristol. And I was picking up on a local initiative, and she mentioned this global movement that had emerged, and Bristol were one of the 100 cities lucky enough to get through. And my thinking is, well, we can support the 100 cities as a platform partner, but we'd also like to support the 1,000 cities that missed out, and also the 10,000s of cities that don't even know that 100 cities exists. So, and that's quite easy to do nowadays with modern technology, online sharing. So we see a role for us in being that trusted database, information sharing, a place to go to give and get help, if you're in that sector, to learn from others and to share good practice. And that's what we hope to achieve by working with 100 resilient cities.
And beyond, as you say.
And beyond, it's right. That's right.
Absolutely. Now, what is the difference, or what are the things that people should look at when choosing between setting up a knowledge hub framework, or a group or network, or a public network, a Facebook group of some sort, or a Facebook and Twitter group connection? What advantages do you bring to the table that perhaps they need to know to make that evaluation?
Yeah. Well, firstly, we always counsel that you go where your community is, so don't turn off other channels. Just for one, you need this multi-channel impact. Particularly if you're engaging with the community, you need to go where the community are, use the tools they're used to using. We see Knowledge Hub as a professional platform. And I think initially the interest we've had from 100 resilient city partners or your member cities has been around the professional stakeholder group. So the colleagues of the Chief Resilience Officer initially, and then their stakeholder network in terms of partners and suppliers, that preparation and planning. Now we're turning attention to how can they engage with the community. And actually, I think there's this attractiveness of, whilst they've now got to draw the community into a new platform, not Facebook, not Twitter, actually there's this professional context, and I'm hoping that the value, the input and the behaviours will mirror that's gone before it, on Knowledge Hub. We're busily turning on the Portuguese Brazilian language pack to support one of the resilient cities in Brazil. And we're hoping to have that live in the next few weeks, and that will be our first foray into properly supporting a member city and helping them engage with their community. The reason for switching on the languages is so that they can, communicate, collaborate in the native tongue, rather than just segmenting the input to those that can speak English or French or whatever it may be. So again, we've got 50 languages built into the underlying technology, and we hope to deploy those to help the cities wherever they are globally.
And we need as fast a scaling as possible to reach as many cities and places around the world as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Before these climate impacts become overwhelming.
Now, of course, 100 resilient cities, it's a fantastic initiative, obviously pioneered by the Rockefeller Foundation. Quite rightly, they need to focus on achieving what they need to achieve with 100 cities. But I think using a platform like Knowledge Hub really does allow us to cascade that information and to make that accessible globally. And I'm hoping, talking to people like yourself, the research journal, is that we can get that message out there and people showing interest and leveraging some of the good practice that will be going on throughout the 100RC program.
Yeah, that is exactly right. In fact, the 100RC program makes the point every time it gets a chance that it was in part designed to be a trigger or an inspiration, a guide to the rest of the world. So they're trying their platform, they're doing what they're doing with these first 100 cities. And they also say the first 100 cities because they want to go beyond, and they pretty much open their program for use by anybody anywhere. So, and their partners like yourselves. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Now, I noticed on the website there's you have groups and you have networks. Can you explain the difference between the two and what a user needs to know to determine whether they should set up a group of, and we're kind of focusing this conversation on citizens, private individuals, neighborhood groups, groups of employees at a company, or groups of NGOs that can come together and trigger some of these collaborations, some of this information sharing. So
essentially, Knowledge Hub is free to use if you're the public sector or it's non-profit, community initiative, something that you can come on and you can set up a group. Groups are open or restricted or private. There's a small charge, 800 UK pounds for a private group. The difference between the groups is open groups. Anybody on the platform can see, search for the group, can join it and participate. Restricted groups, the user gives a reason for joining, and the owner of the group will say yes or no. Private groups are not searchable, so you won't find them in a search feed. You only know about them if you've been invited to join. So it's invite only, if you like. So Knowledge Hub was a series of these, 2,000 odd groups, either open, private, or restricted. And if you join Knowledge Hub, you can search and join those groups that of interest. A network is effectively a branded channel. It's for organisations that want their own branding, sovereignty, additional user rights to create and delete groups, add and delete users. They can set their channel as the home network. So a user, when they sign on to Knowledge Hub, would always go to their channel, which is a segmented view of Knowledge Hub, if you like. And one of the ways that we finance the platform is through these professional networks. So these are part of our paid-for services. The offer to the 100 resilient cities was that we would give each city their own network free of charge for as long as the 100 resilient city program is going, or actually in perpetuity. That's absolutely fine. So the difference between a group and a network, if you've got one or two initiatives, you might take out groups on Knowledge Hub. If you're running a program or it's an organisation you want to represent, bring together, then you'll go for a professional network.
All right. So conceivably, if we're thinking fast scale, if we're thinking the fast spread of people-to-people citizen networks, we can envision an NGO taking the lead in a city where perhaps the government does not take the first step. An NGO or a corporation, that's part of their social responsibility, can set up a network and then just invite community groups and different folks around the city to set up groups within that network.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have an organization set up a branded network in a city, and then just invite neighborhood organization, community associations, different groups from different trade groups, business groups to join in different groups. So it'll be a network, right? So it could set up that way, and that would be a way for this to scale far more rapidly than just wait for individual communities to launch their own groups.
Yeah,
Does that make
right.
sense?
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense, absolutely. And it may, it may be in a, it may be a network to a particular location. So I live in Devon in the UK, so Devon might come on and set up a network for Devon. But equally, somebody in Devon might have a real passion around or concern around coastal erosion. So they might set up, something around coastal erosion. So it might be theme-based or it might be geography. And it comes back to relevance. So we talk a lot about the users and our need to stay relevant in terms of the tools and the way we provide those tools. But actually, why does anybody visit any of these multitude of platforms that exist? It comes back to relevance. I'm going to visit Knowledge Hub because I care about the environment, climate change, coastal erosion, whatever those things are, or because I live in Devon, or wherever it may be in the world. I've got a passion, and I want to get involved. I want to make a difference that way.
Yeah, and in fact, and one of the challenges that we see around the world is the level of engagement or lack thereof by people, whether motivated by theme or geography, whether public sector or private sector, and of course that's probably certainly a function of how recent this entire climate resilience space is. I mean, most of the folks in the movement and interested in this have been at it from the perspective of sustainability, to reduce carbon emissions, preserve natural resources, and prevent climate change or keep it from reaching catastrophic levels. But now that we know that we cannot prevent climate change, it's here and it's going to get worse, and there's nothing we can do about that. The one thing that we can do is just become resilient and prepare for it. And that kind of awareness has dawned relatively recently. And so, those of us in this expect a rather dramatic tipping point or inflection point coming up very soon as people realize that, wait a minute, the priority right now is to become resilient, even as we keep taking steps to mitigate and reduce carbon and preserve resources. So, so this education process is expected to scale up relatively quickly and suddenly and dramatically in the coming months and years. Now, I did want to ask you about your suite of collaboration tools that you have on your website. It's a bunch of them, from blog writing to just connecting people, a very nice profile that people set up. Talk to us about some of these collaboration tools and how they help people come together on this issue.
Yeah, so we use open source technology from a company called LifeRay, based in the US, but a global provider, and they've got a whole suite of tools. And what we've done to configure Knowledge Hub is to pick the collaboration and communication tools, and to put them together to form Knowledge Hub. So it's really giving someone, an individual, an organization, a space where they can share information. So upload documents, videos, any modern media type, to share with others. They can restrict how those how content is shared and who it's shared with. So you've got proper privacy controls around that. But effectively, it's a knowledge hub, and the clue's in the title. It's a way to share and impart knowledge. And a lot of organizations will be using email, and then you've got people come and say, well, I haven't got the email, or it's that sort of stuff. So it's creating that knowledge repository. So if I'm a new city or from somewhere else, I can at my own leisure catch up going through the library, the documentation. There's granular in terms of the audit trail. You can see changes to various versions of documents to do a contrast and compare. So the whole range of tools from that library, the tools that you mentioned around the comms tools, messaging, forums, message boards, the blogs, as you've mentioned, a whole variety of tools there, but all geared really to bringing people together and sharing information, on a global scale, as I say, increasingly global scale.
Fantastic.
And we've got a small team, admittedly, but I think one of the things that makes us different is our approach is that our team of online community builders and knowledge managers are sharing their knowledge on a daily basis. So if you're running one of the groups on Knowledge Hub, or actually if you're not running the group, you're just interested, you can join this group of online community builders, and we do skills transfer and knowledge transfer. So what we're trying to do is do a skills transfer so we can keep our costs down, small team, and effectively allow the community to run itself, run the platform itself, and think of ways of stimulating the group. There's polling facilities, there's surveys. So a good way of, I guess, getting the community involved initially, but to run a poll, run a survey, use the findings from that to feed back in a blog. Talk about the various themes on the message board and invite conversation. There's an ideas module so that you could post your top 10, top 100 priorities and get people to vote on that. And the highest priority could be considered as the next up project or something like that. So various tools that we'd use in a professional setting that can now be extended to the wider community to get their input, determine how we focus resources, dealing in 100 resilient city language, the stresses and shocks, that surrounded a particular area from a resilience point of view.
No, and it'll be really exciting to see how people on their own, kind of, as you said earlier, combine that platform, the Knowledge Hub platform, with the Facebook or the Twitter or the combination. Obviously, if you create a group in Knowledge Hub that is focused on the resilience, climate resilience in a city, in a neighborhood, or theme-based flooding, storm management, whatever. And they want to reach out to others that are now in Facebook or through Twitter. It's really interesting how your platform is facilitates or enables that integration with other platforms as well. So so it's great. Now I did want to end with a question on your income sharing model. I saw that on your website as well. That kind of struck me as something really interesting. Insofar as it might create an incentive, a financial incentive, for people to launch a Knowledge Hub network or group and make it as big as possible. So go over what that income sharing or that income model is and how that serves as an incentive for somebody to go ahead and use your platform.
As you know, with the bigger the scale platforms, advertising is how they fund the platform, more than fund the platform. The online advertising revenue globally goes up, daily, hundreds of billions of pounds, I think, certainly a very big number. And we believe just a tiny proportion of that flow into Knowledge Hub is the way that we can fund this platform going forward. So in time, maybe we don't have to charge subscriptions to these organizations. It can all be funded through, advertising income. But you need scale to do that. So we've started to advertise on the platform, programmatic advertising. We've had some organisations that are interested in reaching or supporting the public service non-profit initiatives that are going on. And they've paid money to have their brand on the platform, to share content and that sort of stuff. And then thinking about the sector in which we operate and wherever you are globally in the world and you talk to somebody from government, there's a squeeze on resources, in terms of investment, and they're looking at ways, innovative ways to fund what they do. So we believe that, we can achieve the scale, we can generate income, but from now we will start sharing that income with the organisation so that, if we identify between us a partner or supplier to come on and spend some money, we operate an income share. So we'll share that back with the network group owner. So that we move away from a traditional license subscription base to an income share model. We use these platforms to generate income, not being kept by a massive global corporation. We're a profit-making organisation, and we believe we can make a good profit eventually. But actually, we think it's right to share that with the organisations that we're dealing with on that basis, and that's how the income share works.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And we've already had a couple of good examples whereby private sector partners come on, sponsor the network or sponsor the group, and the network or the group associated has benefited from that.
Yeah, and not only is it right from a conscience perspective, but it's also, again, it gives an incentive to that network, to that group, to go ahead and set it up with you, as opposed to focusing or using primarily one of the public networks where they don't have that important benefit. Well, Jason, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your time.
Fantastic information. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to seeing you grow and seeing you scale and expand to those other thousands of cities and that you mentioned on your sites. So
we'll make sure we let you know when we get the first one up and running. You can join and have a look, and obviously, keen for you to stay in touch with our growth, and supporting these cities and this important work.
Yeah, again, as I said at the outset, it is one of the most important fronts, people networks, citizen networks, beyond what governments are doing, beyond what companies are doing. We got to get citizen engaged and involved, and this is a way of facilitating that. So kudos to you and to your team. And again, good luck moving forward. Fantastic.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.